love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows.
I want to show you something you will not be seeing on any news channel.
This whole celebrity idea is eroding. The whole fame idea is eroding. That shit was sold to us, y'all. You got people out here that are human, that are acting every day of their life. They're not even real. They just on NPC shit. Every day they acting. They don't even know the world is a stage, dog, and it's a lot of terrible actors.
Yes, that's Kyrie Irving exposing how fake celebrities are, but that's not the most shocking part of his online rant. Let me show you what he said about Bill Gates.
I still think it's weird that, you know, the Gates family or Bill Gates owns a lot of the, you know, land in North Dakota. I think that's weird. He owns the majority of the water in the United States. I think that's weird. Whatever, that, you know, weird, this to each his own, this for informational purpose only, but at the same time, it's just like when you go to the grocery store and you see certain products that are on there that, you know, they spray with a bunch of shit, a bunch of pests.
What's crazy is that he repeated exactly what I said in a video that has now received nearly 2 million views on Instagram and is now going viral on X. Bill Gates is very interested in your water. While everyone's distracted with indictments and celebrity BS, Bill Gates, BlackRock, and Nestle just quietly teamed up. Yes, Nestle. Same company whose chairman literally said water isn't a human right. And now they're making moves to own it. This isn't speculation. It's already happening. Gates is buying up farmland that sits on major aquifers. BlackRock is pouring billions into water infrastructure. And Nestle? Still extracting millions of gallons while local communities run dry. They're not just buying land, they're buying access to rivers, lakes, groundwater. They're investing in the tech to monitor, track, and reroute where water flows and who gets it. This isn't about conservation. This is about control. Food already controls people, but water? Water controls everything. You can live without oil. You can survive without power. But water? You've got days. They already run agriculture, finance, and energy. Now they want to own survival itself, and no one's stopping them. This is a hostile takeover of the one thing we need to live. And by the time people wake up, it'll already be gone. Now, the thing is that my video resonates with anyone who sits down and wonders how we allowed a billionaire to own so much of our precious farmland.
That same year, a young Klaus Schwab, son of a Nazi industrialist and protege of Henry Kissinger, formed the World Economic Forum, replacing and expanding Kissinger's International Seminar. The World Economic Forum is made up of 1,000 corporate entities, represented by a consensus of 100, the same exact entities that make up the Bilderberg Group, because they are one and the same. As the World Economic Forum, this group of power-hungry parasites goes public and gradually begins to normalize their agenda for world domination. In 1974, Kissinger drafts National Security Study Memorandum 200, wherein he calls for worldwide depopulation. And a year later, it becomes official U.S. policy. During the 1980s, the CIA sold cocaine to Los Angeles street gangs to fund an illegal war, while Big Pharma killed tens of thousands of Americans with AZT and lies. In the 90s, they began spinning the outrageous lie that the loyal, patriotic American is a domestic terrorist, while drafting more globalist policies such as NAFTA. In 1992, Klaus Schwab established the Global Leaders for Tomorrow School, later re-established as the Young Global Leaders. Attendees include all the major players of the COVID-19 hoax, the lockdowns, and the mandatory vaccines. In 1992, Bill Gates was the head of a computer software company. He attended Klaus Schwab's Globalist Leader Schools in 1993, and in 1994, he begins his life in scientific research and global health with the formation of the William H. Gates Foundation, which later became the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Gates's so-called philanthropic efforts revolved around human depopulation, genetically modified foods, and experimental vaccines.
But things only get worse. Let me show you what the president said in a recent interview.
I speak to farmers. I say, would you like to live in my penthouse in Manhattan? It's the most beautiful. No, sir, I want this farm. And what happens is, we were losing a lot of people to suicide. They'd borrow money to pay the estate tax, and they were not able to pay it. And some banks are ruthless; they wouldn't do anything, and they would end up committing suicide. We have totally ended the estate tax in those situations. So there's no estate tax. So when a parent leaves the farm to the kids, they don't have to worry about their local, possibly unfriendly banker coming in and stealing their farm.
Folks, in 2022, only 87 farms actually paid the estate tax. Even if those exemptions are removed, only about 1% of the farmers will be required to pay this tax, and these farmers own more assets than entire communities. Of course, people like Bill Gates will save a lot of money, but I understand that this was a campaign promise, and President Trump wants to keep his word. However, I just hope that he will also talk about what's happening to the rest of the farmers.
So Walmart gets to participate, if not set the prices of their products. Do the farmer and rancher? No. They're dictated their prices by various means. The Chicago Board of Trade, various other things. Let's take, for example, the price of wheat. The price of wheat is roughly around what it was in the 1990s. I think the national average was somewhere around $3.50 a bushel. Today, I just looked up a local report. It's around $4.67 a bushel. Now, can you imagine if you were alive in the 90s and had a job, if you had to live in 2025 off of your 1990s salary or wages? Yeah, how would that work? So here's the next part. Let me explain. So the average farm is in debt about $250,000 to around $1.8 million, and that's an average. Farmers and ranchers carry $376 billion worth of debt. That's the mom and pops. That's the people trying to sit around the table at the end of the year and figure out how the hell they're going to make their payments to their banker.
You see, we're using every technique in the book to remove small-scale farms from this country. And if nothing works, we just push these farmers into debt and never let them recover from it.
There isn't a tyrant alive or dead who has any love or respect for individual rights. So when Americans are confused as to why their own government would ever try to harm them, they either don't understand the nature of evil, don't understand the nature of evil, don't understand the nature of evil, or they don't grasp how priceless the Bill of Rights actually are. They are the bane of the globalist tyrants who seek to control all of humanity. We could trace this conspiracy of tyrants all the way back to the 18th century, but we'll begin with the year that gave birth to the Federal Reserve Bank and Big Pharma. In 1910, the Carnegie Foundation published the Flexner Report, which directly led to the shutting down of natural traditional medicine and gave way for the Rockefellers to patent and monopolize the medicine industry. That same year, Rothschild banking dynasty's Paul Warburg, along with high-ranking members of U.S. banking and government, met in secret to hatch a plan that would financially rob every single American citizen for generations to come. Fractional reserve banking was considered a scam for centuries. This changed in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Banking System. Fractional reserve banking became the norm, regulated by the Fed. The Federal Reserve was also given the task of managing the U.S. debt, otherwise known as inflation, the hidden tax where the Fed gets to bail out members of their criminal cabal while everyone else suffers. Meanwhile, their families created their own interest-free banks, utilizing what's known as a whole life insurance policy and family trusts, keeping their own wealth safely out of the Federal Reserve System, a banking system that gave this cabal unlimited funds to wage war against all of humanity. In 1921, after years of meeting in secret, the Round Table Movement, a group that sought to reunify America with the Crown, and the Harvard Business School, merged factions to become the Council on Foreign Relations, a think tank allowing bankers and industrialists the opportunity to engineer government policy and discreetly undermine American democracy. In 1942, the OSS was formed by the cabal as an intelligence agency to fight the war. OSS member Allen Dulles went on to help create the CIA in 1947, who immediately began seizing control of the worldwide illicit drug market, starting with the heroin trade in Sicily. The CIA's reputation speaks for itself. They are the world's biggest drug cartel, overthrower of nations, and purveyors of propaganda and MK Ultra. The globalist cabal has these intelligence groups in all of their nations, with no oversight, using them as a secret army to carry out their agenda. In 1944, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund were created under the guise of fostering global growth, followed by the United Nations in 1945. What they actually did was work together to violently seize control of entire nations. The World Bank trained people known as economic hitmen to make a simple offer to world leaders on their behalf. Either accept a massive loan designed to bankrupt their nation, or be killed. And many were. The game is simple. Conquer by debt. The Federal Reserve banking system does it to every individual, and the World Bank and IMF do it to every nation. Once indebted to these crooked institutions, they lose control over their own destiny. The only difference between the mafia and this globalist cabal is scale.
How did we go from fighting a revolution over a 2% tax on a breakfast beverage to what we pay today? And we're taxed on money when we receive it, when we spend it, when we keep it, when we invest it, and even when we die with it. It gets worse. We commute to work to make that money in a car that is taxed again to register on roads we're already taxed to build, fueled by gas that is taxed even further, and many times through tolls that tax you again. And that's to maintain bridges and highways and tunnels that already have billions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, allocated to them, and they're still falling apart. And then when you get to your office that is taxed to exist, in a corporation that is also taxed to do business, that almost certainly requires permits and other things, which are another tax, you are paid a paycheck that the corporation must match another payroll tax on top of what they have to pay you. Then you go to a home of which you are taxed to own every single year that we bought with money that the government already taxed us on. Oh, by the way, the more money you make and the more you pay in taxes warrants the government taking more and even higher percentages of your money.
Now I'm going to let this go around the room, but y'all got to give it back. This is the outside that I purchased of the pocket commission that I had. And before I left, I had the sense of mind to make a copy. This is the little badge I used to flip out at people and say, give me your books and records. Give me your bank statements. Give me all your credit cards, you know. And, you know, people, okay, here, you know, even the counties, I go to the county, do it. I go just about anywhere and flip this little thing out and get whatever I wanted. You know, there's a lot of power nuts out there doing that, guys. Y'all know it. Half of you already know about it. There's an enforcement pocket commission and there's a non-enforcement pocket commission. And I started looking back at this thing. It has SER, Southeast Region. First of all, I'll read it. It has my picture up here and it says, Sherry Jackson, whose signature and picture appear above, is duly commissioned as Internal Revenue Agent and has authority to perform all duties conferred upon such officers under all laws and regulations administered by the Internal Revenue Service, including the authority to investigate and require and receive information as to all matters relating to such laws and regulations. And it has SER and some other numbers and an A. And based on this Internal Revenue Manual, A means administrative. So I'm an administrative clerk out there on the front lines. And I'm an administrative clerk with a non-enforcement pocket commission. Okay, so I'm starting to get angry here. Starting to think about all that. I had to take bribes and get little tape recorders taped to my body and the little microphones on me and go in and take bribes from people. But, you know, thinking about stuff like that, you know, what they got me out here and I'm thinking I really have authority. And this is administrative, non-enforcement pocket commission. That was one of the other things I thought about. And then I thought about and I found out this is another issue, a levy versus a notice of levy. This is something that I didn't deal with a lot because I was an agent and I just assessed the tax. I wasn't a tax collector. I just assessed it. So this is a notice of levy. And someone said, hey, this is a notice of levy. This is what the banks get or your job or whatever. They said, look at the back of it. So I'm looking at the back of this notice of levy and it says Section 6331, levy and distraint. And then it says B, and C. And I'm thinking, it starts off with B? What happened to A? So I looked up A. And here's A. And it says, levy may be made upon the accrued salary or wages of any officer, employee, or elected official of the United States, the District of Columbia, or any agency or instrumentality of the United States or the District of Columbia by serving a notice of levy. I'm thinking, but that's not most people. That's not the person that works at AT&T or Bell South or Coca-Cola. That's not most people. Aren't people noticing that the A isn't on here? Aren't they curious about it? Why are they doing this? All this is going through my head during this period of time, then I'm realizing that there's a rat in the camp. That's what I call it. But this is the straw that broke the camel's back. The Federal Reserve is not federal. How many of you did not know before today that the Federal Reserve isn't federal? If you did not, don't be shy. If you didn't know before today that the Federal Reserve isn't federal, raise your hand. Most people don't know that. 9 out of 10 people that I asked off the street don't understand that the Federal Reserve is a non-auditable private banking cartel.
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah. You don't live in the world you think you do.